Did L. Ron Hubbard actually give lectures in front of a live audience? Did he ever give the same lecture twice, or was everything taped? When you listen to him, you get the feeling that he comes up with the things on the go. No way he could remember what exactly he was rambling about. In real life, if you give a lecture, you have to do it again and again yourself, and you have to know your stuff. You cannot just send a tape for the next audience to listen to. But of course, Hubbard was too busy and important since he was already moving on after each lecture, doing new research. Thoughts? Well, I recently did an interview with Mark Headley where we talked about the sort of behind the scenes of producing L. Ron Hubbard's lectures, or reproducing them as the case may be, because they required a lot of editing and workover in order to restore them so that they could even be listened to, because the original recording quality was so bad that we were lucky to have them at all. Hubbard obviously arranged for his lectures to be recorded for posterity purposes, and so they could be sent out to, he was touring around the country doing these lectures to various individual Dianetics and Scientology groups. And it was a running record of his research, or his latest developments, or his latest imaginings as to how things would be. Also, don't forget, he also would incorporate into these lectures, as though it was his own information, suggestions and ideas that other people had given to him. We've talked about this with the study technology that Hubbard supposedly developed, which was actually given to him by a couple Scientologists the night before when they were having dinner. And then he went, and this was when he was at St. Hill in England, and he then pontificated about the misunderstood word and the importance of it in study, when 48 hours before it had never been on his mind at all. So, that kind of thing would also happen. Hubbard's lectures are all one-offs as far as I know. I'm not aware of a single time that Hubbard went and repeated a lecture or speech that he had given before. And clearly, most of these were, no notes. He prided himself on no notes for his lectures. He would just kind of go at it off the top of his head. Only occasionally would he have little note cards or something. I think, at least when he commented on it, he was commenting on that when he was giving his, I think he gave 2 to 3 lectures a week at St. Hill in England, when he had a whole mob of students there for years doing the St. Hill Special Briefing course. So I think the schedule was like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Monday and Wednesday or something, and he was giving these lectures every week. And he would often joke about, having notes or not having notes, but not the same lectures ever. And these lectures were recorded and then, of course, duplicated and sent out all over the world to the various Scientology groups and organizations, from England to Australia to Italy to Hawaii to Seattle to, everywhere around. And they were sold. So this was a marketing, income source for Scientology and for L. Ron Hubbard. And I guess he collected royalties or something on that. So that was kind of the pattern he set up with giving his lectures. And there are quite a few lectures that have not been released or not releasable because the recording quality was so bad that the tapes just kind of fell apart or aren't really in very good shape. As far as was he giving lectures in front of a live audience, yes, he was. But as Mark Headley and I went over, sometimes that live audience was only a couple people. And then when they go back and they edit these lectures, they put laugh tracks in, they put applause at the beginning and the end. They would alter his voice depending on what location he was in, the idea being that they were altering it to make it sound like it actually sounded in that location. But it's interesting because depending on what lecture series you're listening to from 1952, 1955, 1957, 1960, his voice sounds quite different in all these different venues. So I guess they have some audio thing that they were doing to make it sound that way, and they did that on purpose. I don't know. I don't know that much about sound reproduction, but that's as much as I know about why his voice sounds so different from one place to another. And of course, they heavily edited the lectures, as Mark and I also went over. Hubbard would ramble on before lectures would even start, just talking to, his friends and people in the audience and commenting on different people who were attending or different people who were involved in Scientology, or being kind of like what they call in Scientology nattering, I almost use that word, complaining, right, or just bitching about people. He would do that too. Sometimes he would praise individuals. Over the years, Hubbard slowly became more and more authoritarian with Scientology. It didn't start it wasn't a black and white thing. It was a gradual becoming worse and worse and worse over the years. So in the early years, you see Hubbard, or you hear Hubbard, recognizing or acknowledging people who have assisted or helped along the way. He especially gave a lot of validation to his wife, Mary Sue. She was quite the little go-getter and hard worker behind the scenes, organizing things that he was incapable of organizing. He wasn't very good at that. So you'd hear some of that in the lectures, but they've been editing that stuff out too. So you don't hear any of that. I was never exposed to a whole lot of that when I was in Scientology, but I've learned about a lot of that since. Okay, so that's kind of what I can say about that.